Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Costa Insights. Today we're going to be talking about West Estepona. Is it the next hotspot on the Costa del Sol? It's been overlooked for years, but is that changing now? Let's find out. All right, let's start with the basics. Kian, what is West Estepona?
Right, so obviously Estepona has been a super popular location over the last few years, and increasingly so. West Estepona, as the name says, is the west side of Estepona. So basically from where Hotel Fuertes, H10, towards Casares, that's the west side. Okay, so we call it West Estepona. That's what we've coined it. We've coined that name. We should make some t-shirts.
I'd buy one.
Yeah, so that's what West Estepona essentially is. No? So let's talk about its history and let's talk about where it is now. Okay, so first of all, the west side of Estepona has traditionally been a stretch of land that's been really overlooked, right? So for like many years, people didn't really pay attention to West Estepona. The area, for example, of La Gaspara had so much vacant land for years and years. That's just next to Buenas Noches, all the way towards Costa Galera, for example. It's always been really low build, loads of plots available. Developers really didn't buy plots in these areas. It wasn't really attractive. And just for reference, if you continue driving along West Estepona, it gets to a moment where you get to Casares Costa. And so that's like the cut-off line of West Estepona. And then from that roundabout, Casares Costa, you drive up and you get to Cortesin. So let's say if you want to sort of triangulate it, you have Estepona Center, then West Estepona starts all the way to Casares Costa, and then above you have Finca Cortesin, which is the world-renowned resort. This area has been, not very popular when it comes to developers and projects. And when I first started in real estate, 13, 14 years ago, it was actually regarded as a cheaper location, but not the entire area, just certain areas. So for example, one very popular development back in that day was Costa Galera. When I first started, it was where you'd pick up the cheaper unit sort of things. And, if someone had a lower budget, that's where they would probably buy a property, right? And now we're seeing a total transformation of this area. So on the west side, we also find Estepona Golf. So, for those people that wouldn't never been to West Estepona, you break it down in the following areas. You have La Gaspara, where, Mercadona is, La Gaspara, where there's loads of new developments coming up now. You've got Estepona Golf, and you have Buenas Noches. Those are the three sort of distinct areas of West Estepona.
In your experience, when did you see the shift towards West Estepona becoming popular among international buyers coming to the market and wanting to? You have sold anything in West Estepona as little as 5 years ago? Or when did you start to see it kind of rise in popularity?
I think it was the first developer, going back to what I was mentioning earlier, like there was loads of vacant lands, it was very undeveloped. And essentially what West Estepona is, it's a very large suburban area, right? So for people to understand what it looks like, it's just suburban, low rise, no? So it was maybe, don't quote me on this, but 6-7 years ago when the developer Kronos decided to bring The Edge to the market. And I remember thinking, that's a hell of a bet. Right, you remember The Edge, right? So
yeah.
You've been there, right?
I have, yeah.
So this Kronos basically arrives to West Estepona and goes, hey, let's build a sort of state-of-the-art development. It's a statement piece. It's one of the most incredible developments of the Costa del Sol, in my opinion. It sells pretty well at the beginning and towards the end. And that was the sort of start of West Estepona. So people started opening up to, hey, there's much more than just Estepona itself, right? At that moment, most of the things that were selling were East Estepona and Estepona Center. Because there was so much demand for new build properties, developers started buying plots of land scattered around La Gaspara. So La Gaspara is everything north of, let's say, where Mercadona currently is, just beneath the new hospital, right? So you have developers like Avante Espacia, developers like Laner, developers like Hercesa, and others which start buying up land and start developing. So the market sort of started to realize, okay, there's not much land in these areas, and developers started buying land here. And what happened is then the business quality started following. So, in a short period of time, we saw, loads of new businesses opening up on the west side of Estepona. We saw, for example, Nido, which is an incredible beachside restaurant, opened up on the beach side, right? And yeah, it started to get attention. And people sort of realized that, hey, if I'm living on the west side of Estepona, I'm literally, 5-minute drive into the city center, right? So, if you think about it, yes, you'd be further away from Marbella, which would be one of the negatives if you want to put a negative on it, or negative spin. But the positives is that you are literally 5 minutes into Estepona.
Any other reasons why West Estepona has become popular, in your opinion?
So I think what I mentioned earlier about the lands and the plots and the accessibility to Estepona Center is one key factor, but there's other factors that maybe people overlook, and it's the high-end markets going towards Sotogrande. So the Costa Sotogrande, I've heard a few people talk about Sotogrande as Greater Marbella. I love that expression. So if it's for quite far away, but anyway, the high-end market's moving that way. But what's really interesting is on the way to Sotogrande, there is one sort of key landmark, which is Finca Cortesin. So Finca Cortesin, like, you know, if you want to define high-end luxury sort of hotels and golf courses, Finca Cortesin is one of the best, you know, in Europe, right? So it's they I'm not a golf player, but they hold like numerous, you know, sort of worldwide cups, golf championships, and it's world renowned, no? So like that's another reason, no? And like some of these areas, especially Buenas Noches, is so close to Cortesin. And just for you to give, for people who don't know this, but in Cortesin, you know, villas can sell from, you know, 8 million to 15 million. Some of these massive houses, and also apartments, you know, where, you know, in some of these developments, the average price is 2, 3, 4 million euros. So we're talking about super high-end sort of project, super high-end area, which is sort of on the line with West Estepona. And what's really interesting is that in the area I was referring to before, Costa Galera, right? There's a few developments that came to market, like Absolute Estepona, Unika Residences, and these developments are essentially on the west side of Estepona, but they're sort of leaning on the line of Cortesin. And the prices are sort of Cortesin prices, which means that, you know, like people are valuing being in the west side of Estepona and within driving distance of Cortesin. Even though you're not in Cortesin, you can have a high-end sort of project very close to it. And that's really interesting. There's other developments like Nalu Suites, and like, you know, we know that in total there's maybe 4 or 5 developments that are coming to market in this area, and they all fall in the same trait. So to answer the question is, in Costa Galera, which is, like I said earlier, typically a more cheaper product, we're now seeing this entire area come to market with super high-end product. And what does that mean for the west side of Estepona? So, like, you know, maybe that's one of the interesting things to talk about is, in my view, it means like it's a great sort of location for long-term appreciation.
Yeah. How long is the drive from West Estepona to Gibraltar?
Oof, don't quote me on that, but I would say it's about 50 minutes.
50,
50
50.
Yeah, 50 minutes.
If I'm interested in West Estepona, what are some of the perks of living there or buying property in West Estepona?
So one perk, one of the top perks would be, generally speaking, again, depending on the project, is generally pricing. So you get, you know, more value for money in these areas compared to East Estepona. Again, you know, that's very generally speaking, depends on the concept and so on. Another, you know, sort of interesting thing is that popular thing is that you're between Estepona and Cortesin, and you're between Estepona and Sotogrande, so you have like 2 very nice little places to hang out, to drive to. The beaches in West Estepona are very nice because you're very close to Casares and Manilva, Duquesa actually. So like from West Estepona to Duquesa, it's less than 10 minutes. And you have all the amenities that the harbor offers. So you've got the best of both worlds. You want a night out, or you want a nice day on the beach. You've got the lovely beach of the Duquesa, and for those people who don't know, the Duquesa beach is beautiful. If you drive past the harbor, it even gets even nicer. It's one of my favorite beaches of the entire Costa del Sol, and I would say that beach will even compete with Cabo Pino and Los Monteros. So like,
wow.
Yeah. It's
I have to go.
Yeah, it's very. So that's one of the perks of West Estepona. But I think, you know, when people go like, hey, people that are in it for the long term, like the real long term. I'm not talking about someone that might buy something and sell up within 3-4 years. Someone that really wants to allocate or invest and know that, you know, 10 years down the line they want, you know, certain appreciation. It's an area that's not as consolidated. No? So that's good and bad. So like if you wanted to buy Marbella, well, Marbella is consolidated, so it's very difficult to find, you know, vacant land to be built on. And if you do enter the market, you're going to enter a different price range. With West Estepona, it's a sort of up-and-coming area, but it's got like, you know, it's like, it's not a certain bet, because nothing in life is a certain bet, but it has all the right cards for it to be a home run, right? And that's what I would say. So like, you know, it's a very calculated risk, in my opinion. If it was just an investment, I really think that's going to do really well. And I think that for people that, you know, let's say for the family sector, for relocators, it's a great place to live. You know, like, you know, you don't really have walking distance to amenities. That's not true. If you live in La Gaspara, for example, you do have all the commercial center below, and you have El Nido. But if you live in Buenas Noches, you'll need a car. Again, depends of the kind of person. So for families that want a lot of outdoor space, they want to sort of be at the beach a lot of the time, and they want to be within striking distance to city centers, West Estepona could be a great place for them. If it's someone that wants to be walking distance to everything and have sort of, you know, life at their doorstep, West Estepona is not for them. It's more for a suburban life, no? So that's really it. But yeah, for those which are looking like for a long-term goal, like developments like Nalu, Unika, Absolute Estepona, like they're going to be hell of developments when they finish. And that's just the ones which are in Buenas Noches. Yeah.
That's actually a great segue, Kian, into my next question, which was, is now the right time to buy in West Estepona?
Yeah, so depending why you're buying and what you're buying, right? Some developments might be better now than what they will be or what they were. It really depends. So let's talk about projects themselves.
Yeah.
If you're looking for, that Cortesin vibe in West Estepona, but you don't want the Cortesin price, Unika Residences.
What's the Cortesin vibe? Help us understand.
Cortesin vibe, we'll put a few photos on the screen. So Cortesin
Okay.
vibe is exactly what they're seeing right now. So it's like a ultra high-end luxury sort of development area where you drive through, layers of security, sort of barriers and concierge and so on, and you got hotels. That's the sort of proper like Cortesin vibe, right? Unika has that vibe, but doesn't have the cost associated to it. Okay. But it's within a striking distance. So like it's like you can say that you live close to Cortesin, but you're not in Cortesin. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But yeah, Unika Residences is great. A super nice development, which we were one of the first ones to launch to the market, was Absolute Estepona, where we have some really happy clients in there as well that bought there. It's under construction. It's a beautiful boutique development, walking distance to the beach. And then, if you wanted to enter into the Buenas Noches market and, a project which is a bit lower in quality compared to Unika, because Unika is very high, the same as the rest, Serenity Gardens, Metro Atesa, that's great. And then on La Gaspara side of things, you would find developments such as 180, beautiful complex. Idyllic, Las Olas, like you mentioned earlier, The Edge, The Island, beautiful complex of townhouses. So yeah, there's really something for everyone, no? There's really something for everyone. But I just sort of, would say for the real long-term buyers that really want, certain appreciation online or as certain as you can be in real estate, I think West Estepona is a great location.
Have you seen a certain demographic, age group, or nationality predominantly more than another buying in West Estepona, or are you seeing a real mix?
So in the investor segment, most of them are Dutch and Belgium. Actually, Dutch is the strongest. In the relocator segment, it's US, Canada, UK, right? And then when it comes to part-time living, the usual suspects, which are Norwegian, Swedish, Danish, which come to a few months a year, and the rest of the months Polish, yeah, it's a really good one. Polish fit in all three categories. You've got some relocators, some investors, and some part-time livers. No? But what's really interesting about this video, and I'm really glad that we're doing it, is it's a hotspot, and people shine the light on Estepona, but I think you have to break it down. Like Estepona is popular because of Estepona Center, East Estepona, New Golden Mile, but people don't talk about West Estepona enough, and I think that it's very good that we're sort of putting a sort of light on it. And we go, hey, this area, could be the next hotspot. Like who knows what it's going to look like in 4 or 5 years' time. So my sort of reflection or my thoughts to you guys, which are looking at this, is in 5 years' time, when Unika, Nalu Suites, Absolute Estepona, and all the beautiful developments which are going to come in within Cortesin, that deserves a video of their own. When all that's developed, what is Estepona, West Estepona going to look like? It might be a case that one day we'll see our word West Estepona somewhere.
Can you imagine? That'd be quite cool. Hashtag West Estepona.
Hashtag West Estepona. Yeah. I think what we can do, Matt, is we can link some of our developments which are for sale in the area. Totally. And I might even I think we should consider doing a West Estepona area guide.
That's a good idea.
We've got one for Estepona Center, walking and regular. We've got New Golden Mile. We need a West Estepona.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I'm sure you guys want to see that too. Thank you everyone for tuning in again to another episode of Costa Insights. Kian, I feel a lot more knowledgeable about West Estepona. And yeah, everybody, don't forget to like.
West Estepona.
Oh, West Estepona. Sorry, I need to use the phrase that we've coined now. I did just buy the sweatshirt, so.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And until next time. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.